What the fuck is this? Let's play the rest of the game intimately. Wow, I'm just getting a fidelity I never thought possible. Look at that back bend. Wow, that's some yoga. Flat as a piece of paper. What the fuck? You trolling, boy? Welcome back. So today I'm doing a video by popular request. Now, I need to disclaim a little bit, all right? One of the issues plaguing some of my videos is that I don't go into enough detail. And I admit, I'd like to go into more detail for you. But I don't want to risk sounding like one of those people who only cares about being super scientific about literally everything. Today we're talking about macros, as I said, by popular request. People want to know, what the fuck do I bind stuff to? And how do I make certain things work better? So I'm going to start with emote macros. Macros just to increase quality of life, to, I don't know, put some flavor in the world, make things a little interesting. So for example, my first one I have /lick target. I haven't used this in a while, but if you just put this on your bar and you run around the city targeting people. So for example, if I wanted to just run through a city and hover over someone and then lick them or do something with them emote wise, you can do that. And so what I did there was I did a mouse over by doing /tar, which is a targeting. And then you put a bracket and you say @mouse over, and you can do this for anything. So say I want to target him without actually clicking on him, I can just mouse over him and hit the macro. That's what this does. So it targets him and then it casts /lick, which is the emote. So boom. I can do this with animals, enemies, whatever. I lick the dragon. I lick the hatchling. Someone pointed out a very important thing, which is my laziness, but also if you want, when you hover over the macro you made on your bar, to display what the spell is and show the details of the spell and the rank and all that stuff, you do pound or number key show tooltip, one word. So pound show tooltip, hashtag. And that will take the first spell that you type in. So in this case, how important this is, let me show you. So watch this. I'll do hashtag show tooltip heroic strike. And now watch what happens. Save it. That's not heroic strike. This is bullshit. I did not hit her. I did not cannibalize. All right. So now that we're out of the room, you can do that. And so what happens now is you will cannibalize. I have it set to say nom 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 because why not? I'm undead. And then so on. Okay. For the next macro, and arguably the most important one, how to charge while you're mounted. For a lot of people, it might be a hassle. For some people, it might be more enjoyable to hit the buttons to dismount, then charge, and so on. That's fine. But if you want to do it in one go, which is probably more efficient, in fact, it's got to be, you can do this. Hashtag show tooltip, all one word, space, charge. That will show you the spell for charge on top of the macro. So that's here. Next line is /dismount. That will take you off your pony. Then /tar, space, brackets, @mouse over. That means that you will target whatever you're mousing over at the time. Then you do /cast charge. And finally /train because choo choo choo. So let's see how this works. I'm mounted, I can't loot. I can't reach down from my horse and loot. But check this out, let's find a mob. Oh, that's a crocodile. That's not a knife. No, this is a knife. Let's say I want to do this. I want to dismount, charge, and hit him, and not have to hit all those buttons. Well, that's what that macro does. So now I'll just hit one, and boom. All right, let's put this macro into practice. If you want to charge and dismount at once, and hover over the target you want to hit, you're riding along, you pop this macro down into your bar, and here we go. Boom. Now, the thing with macros is you might need to hit the key a bunch of times. It could work the first time, but the code has to parse line by line until finally the spell is engaged. So My recommendation is to keep the macros simple and try to keep it to one spell. There are plenty of YouTubers, plenty of people out there making very advanced, intricate macros. And I'm targeting the layman. So that will definitely speed up your time when you're riding around farming mobs, when you're bouncing from mob to mob and you're trying to tag them. It will help you a lot because you'll just be much more efficient. You won't have to click them or tab. You just mount, go to the next one, make sure you're in battle stance, and boom. It's much faster, get a lot more done. The next macro I want to talk about is equip shield. Now this actually shouldn't be bash, this should just be equip shield. Okay. Why is... What the fuck? I didn't hit that. Okay, anyway. So, yeah, the next one I want to talk about is equip shield. This is simple. If you're in combat with something, say the spider, and they start hitting you, all of a sudden they're like enraging and you're getting crit, and you just want to throw on a shield to not die. Boom. Just one key, and it will equip into the correct slot your shield. Very simple macro, like stupidly simple kindergarten macro, but very important. And from here you can do a lot more. So you can add more lines onto this code. For example, you can, if you're in a raid or something and you take aggro, you might want to have a macro for doing this and switching to defensive stance. So what I would do next is /cast defensive stance. And the next line would be /cast shield wall. So now if I use it, it's going to save. If I use it, boom. Not only do I switch to defensive stance, but I immediately trigger shield wall. So if you pull aggro, you're totally screwed. You know that you're going to die in a second. This will save your life. Okay, so having this is a super, super important macro later on, or some variation of it. Okay, next, let's see. This is a guild recruitment. So if you want to spam, you can spam. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. You just type / and then the channel number and then your sales pitch. Next is intercept. Now the reason why I made an intercept macro is because for similar reasons as the charge macro, sometimes, let's say you're fighting a mob, and I'm going to pull my rage on purpose here. So let's say that I pull my rage and I'm just so angry and I mount up and I'm going to the next mob and I have all this rage. Why would I want to dump that rage to go into battle stance? That doesn't make any sense. So what I did was I made basically the same exact macro for intercept as I did for charge. It does exactly the same thing. I'm just going to change this line right here. There we go. So now I still have my rage, I'm still hovering, and I go, boom, on to the next mob. If you are fighting mobs that are lower than you, you're critting a lot, you have a bunch of rage, and you're just bouncing from mob to mob, it's gonna be a really, really good macro for you because you're not gonna wanna waste your time, right? Why would you wanna waste your time executing a mob that's gonna die from 2 white hits? Pull your rage, mount up, go on to the next one. Don't even have to target them. If it's on cooldown, oh, joke's on you. But anyway, that's another really good one. On to the next. Interrupt. So this is important if you're in a dungeon or if you're in a raid and you have to take turns interrupting. Let's just say you're fighting a tough mob, or I don't know. There are situations, it came much later in the game, but there are some situations where you need to have rotations of interrupt. So having a macro that shows you when you're trying to interrupt is very good. So let's say I'm fighting this guy and he's a caster mob. It's like, oh shit, Kael'thas is casting. Quick, interrupt. Well, I have this macro set so that if I do try, if I just hit it once, I'm trying to hit it, right? I'm trying to interrupt it. If I spam the key, it shows everyone around me that I'm trying to interrupt it. So on fights that maybe require everyone to know whose turn it is, this is a good way to make sure, but the thing is it can fill your chat box. So maybe hitting it once is enough, depending on your guild. I don't know how obvious you need to make it. Do a hashtag show tooltip pummel. Next line, cast pummel, and then of course you want to /say interrupting. The %T will display whatever you are targeting. So this is useful because you don't want to have to type in the name for every mob. You know, even though you might only use it on one fight, if you want to use this in the world or something else, this is always going to apply to whatever you're targeting. So you can use %T for a lot of things, okay? Just remember, %T means it's whatever you're typing is applied to that target. It's a very useful piece of code. Okay, and then I have interrupt fail. This is just for me. If I don't successfully get the interrupt off, I go in, I'm attacking, switch over, okay. And they're like, shit, they're casting Frost Death Bolt. And I go, boom, crap, it didn't work. Right after, I'm gonna hit this modified version, which is Alt-F. So I have it bound to Shift-F, and then Alt-F will display, shit, it failed on blank. Again, it could be useful in situations where you really need that interrupt, and if you quickly say that, then someone else can react and use their interrupt ability, like Earth Shock or Kick or whatever, or Pummel, or Shield Bash. If I'm gonna switch between Dual Wield and Sword and Board, right, then in the midst of an instance, when I'm stance dancing all the time, I'm like switching, maybe I'm pulling mobs that hit me super hard physically, so I put the shield back on, maybe I'm fighting more casters, maybe it's a big group and I'm just wanting to AoE, who knows, but you want to have a good switching pair of macros. That means, number one, you can do this one, which equips that tanking sword, equips your shield, and casts defensive stance. So if you look, it's like this. Immediately I put the weapons I need on and I'm in defensive stance. That's fantastic. But let's say I'm tanking, and again, I want to do more damage. I just want to, you know, I'm not taking any damage. This is a waste of time, so I might as well just throw on my weapons and do some DPS. Well, I hit this one. Now, the reason why I have this one not casting Berserker Stance or Battle Stance is because certain situations might call for certain abilities. And so I would rather physically choose at that moment, okay, I'm going to put my swords on and go into Berserker Stance. I have that bound to something different. So that for me is Shift D. If I wanted to go to Battle Stance, I would do Shift A. Okay. So I put my sword and shield on and I go to defensive stance. And the reason for that is I'm using this consistently to use abilities in defensive stance. If you would rather just equip your sword and shield and use stuff in that current stance, all you have to do is take this line out, similar to this one up here, right? It's basically that one. So, this one is /equip slot 16 Sword of Omen. 16 is the slot for your main hand. So /equip slot, then space 16 Sword of Omen, that would equip it there. /equip slot 17 would go into your offhand. And then cast defensive stance. Okay, and again, you can always change the hashtag to show whatever spell you want. I do the same thing with the switchback macros. That's just when I want to put my weapons back in the right place. So the Sword of Omen goes in the offhand and the Vanquisher Sword goes back into the main hand. This is just for doing more damage. Okay, and the last one is Taunt. There are so many macros you can make for all sorts of situations. It's very powerful. I'm very pleased that the game has macros, and it was a big concern among private server players, and are the macros going to work, and what's the, I don't know, what's the syntax going to be? I'm just glad to see that they're here. Now, the last one is Taunt. The last macro for this video is going to be the Taunt macro. Let's say that you're in an instance and you're fighting multiple mobs. So let's say we're just doing this wonderful Dustwallow Marsh open dungeon, and we have multiple mobs. And I have pretty healer ABCDF Cuck over there. And that Cuck just can't stop healing me, and they pull aggro on one of the mobs. I don't know how. And I see this crocodile run back there to go chomp on its face. Well, I don't have to tab target and cycle through a bunch of other mobs to get to it, or try to find it and click on it. If you are accurate and fast, you just move your mouse over. Should be in defensive stance. Move my mouse over and hit the taunt key. Okay. I have it say /cackle because, you know, just I'm the Greek freak. So, as a side note, I wanted to thank 2Block2 for reminding me that you can indeed use Shield Bash in battle stance. In one of my videos, I was talking about a macro that switches to defensive stance, equips the shield, and casts Shield Bash. In retrospect, you don't need to do all of that to cast Shield Bash. You can just stay in battle stance. Without tactical mastery and anger management, it's going to be tough, right? Because you're going to switch, you're going to drop all your rage, you're not going to even be able to use Shield Bash. So I think it's kind of a niche thing, and it's something that you can definitely use. But again, he's right. You can use Shield Bash in battle stance. And so for that reason, I think it's good to just have a macro that throws on your board. For me, that's Alt D. It just throws on my shield. And now I can use Shield Bash in battle stance if I want to. So thank you again for bringing that to my attention. I should have mentioned that in that video. Hope this helps. Hope it isn't just a swamp of information. If you have your own lovely macros you would like to share with the crowd, please, by all means. I've been fortunate enough to have people give feedback. Thank you very much for the feedback. I hope that these simple macros are, at the very least, helpful for you to increase your quality of life and to kind of get you started. Because, yeah, I could tell you, go make this macro, go do that. You know, there are lots of websites that already do that. You could just copy paste everything. But that would defeat the purpose of you feeling like you're in control of your character. Like, you should go make your own macros and be original. Come up with your own design, come up with your own ideas, like add your own emotes, add your own spells that you want to transition into. You can do certain cast sequences that are really fun, and it just goes on and on and on from there. So I would just open up the macro page. I remember when I first played in vanilla, I was terrified of this page because I just thought, I don't know how to do this. I'm a moron. I'm like 15. I'm stupid. Not to be macro analytical about this whole thing, but you know, it's good for you. So now that I'm done slipping puns in everywhere, don't worry. Have fun. Shit, what else is there to say? For the horde, I guess. See you later.